The Child's Play TV show is finally happening. How's it going, guys? As always, I'm Jimmy Champane, and this is the channel where it's always Halloween. If you like movies with slashers, monsters, pretty much anything inspired by or set during the 1980s, this is the channel for you. Today's video is all about the Child's Play show that's happening over at Sci-Fi called Chucky. It's being made by Don Mancini, the original creator of the Child's Play franchise, alongside Nick Antosca, who is like criminally underrated. He's the guy behind Channel Zero, which if you haven't seen that show, I think all of it is still on Shudder, and it's also available to watch like pretty much everywhere. You should definitely go check that show out because it's one of my favorite horror things in the entire world. It's actually been a while since I've had to update the Child's Play playlist here on the channel because that remakes fandom got toxic as hell, but this TV show does seem pretty cool, so I'm gonna talk about it. For some quick backstory on the actual show, it's going to be called Chucky, like I already mentioned, and it's been in the works for a while. And the idea going into it is that it's going to serve as sort of a soft reboot for the franchise once again, but it's going to take every other movie in the franchise, except for the remake, into account for its story and pick up directly after Cult of Chucky, which is the last official movie. And most importantly, it seems like all of the main people you want to see coming back are coming back. Brad Dourif is officially voicing Chucky, and Tiffany is being played by Jennifer Tilly, who is also, I guess, playing herself in this universe at this point. Do you ever just stop and think about how weird this franchise is? Like in Bride of Chucky, you've got Jennifer Tilly playing Tiffany, who then gets turned into a doll, and then in Seed of Chucky, she plays doll Tiffany and Jennifer Tilly, the actress in the movie, who also just happens to look identical to Tiffany's body form from Bride. It's confusing, but I kind of love it because it's just weird. Like, you don't see a lot of big budget horror movies doing stuff like that. Anyway, from everything we've heard about the show so far, it looks like it's not only going to take place in the present, but it's also going to dive deep into Charles Lee Ray's past, aka before he was a doll. The description we have so far is that the series begins when a vintage Chucky doll turns up at a suburban yard sale and an idyllic American town is thrown into chaos as a series of horrifying murders begin to expose the town's hypocrisies and secrets. Meanwhile, the arrival of enemies and allies from Chucky's past threatens to expose the truth behind the killings, as well as the demon doll's untold origins as a seemingly ordinary child who somehow became the notorious monster. As far as I can tell, Don Mancini is writing the entire show, and if you haven't checked out his IMDb screenwriting credits in a while, you should definitely go give that a look. Like, this dude's written episodes of Hannibal, but on top of that, it looks like he's at least directing the premiere of the show, so everything's good on that front in my opinion, as long as they pick some good directors for the rest of the series. The biggest thing we've gotten from the show so far is a CGI teaser that just confirmed to us that yeah, this show is happening, it's moving out of the pre-production stage, and we're going to film it in 2021. That was late last year, and while, yeah, the CGI in the trailer doesn't look great, I don't think the actual show is going to be CGI or animated in any way, so it was just kind of a weird way to announce it. I'm gonna assume that it really came down to the fact that they announced it during the age of COVID, but the logo for the show, Chucky, which is like an outline of the word Chucky in the way that we've seen it in the direct-to-DVD movies, but in bright colors, really reminds me of the original Child's Play. And then when you hear that riff on the original Child's Play theme going along with the trailer, that got me excited. Looking at the trailer didn't get me excited. Looking at the logo and listening to the music in the trailer, that's what got me hyped. That's what I'm saying here. The worst thing about Chucky so far is that while they were originally supposed to film it last fall in Toronto, they had to delay the shooting into this year because of COVID. So that means we're probably going to have to wait until 2022 to actually see the show. But thankfully, thanks to a bunch of tweets from cast members on the show, they're all flying over to Toronto right now to get ready to shoot it. So that means we won't have to wait too long to actually see it, which is good. And that brings us to today because we actually learned some more names of people who are joining the show in addition to the ones I mentioned earlier. The main cast of the show is going to be a group of 4 kids, and they're being played by Zachary Arthur, Theo Briones, The main cast of the show seems like they're going to be younger, and honestly, I can't pronounce like half of their names, so I'm just showing them on the screen right now, and hopefully you know who they are. But knowing that the main focus in the show is going to be a group of kids is actually an exciting change to me, because the last few Child's Play movies like Curse of Chucky and Cult of Chucky have mainly focused on adults. So changing things up for this brand new show, especially considering that it's basically a soft reboot for the series, that seems like a good idea in my opinion. Like, I know it's a total gamble when you focus focus on child actors, but the fact that this show seems like it's gonna get 4 kids together to take on Chucky really gives me a Stranger Things vibe, and I love that show, so I'm not gonna complain about that idea at all. It's been long enough since Cult released that I think they can kind of give up on the plotline they introduced and move on to new stuff, and while we already got Andy coming back in the remake, I like the idea of 4 kids grouping together a lot more than just focusing on one loner, because we already saw that in the first Child's Play, we kind of saw that in the second Child's Play, and then we saw it in the remake in 2019. So moving away from adults, bringing kids back into the franchise, and focusing on a group of them over just one loner, that all just seems like a recipe for success. And then there's one name that's getting thrown in the mix that's getting me legitimately hyped, and that's Devon Sawa. So he's a big actor from when I was growing up. He was in Casper, he was in Final Destination, I think he was in The Faculty, like he was in some good horror movies that I watched when I was a kid. His career kind of dipped, but it came back thanks to that really weird movie he did with John Travolta called The Fanatic. But either way, he's back and he's joining Child's Play, and his part seems pretty important because they're keeping it completely under wraps. And because the focus of this series seems to be bringing Child's Play back to its roots, I could really see him playing a character that's either Detective Mike Norris's son or just a new version of Detective Mike Norris. And either way, I am totally fine with that, because when I go back and watch the original Child's Play, I love Andy, I obviously love Chucky, but the main character to me, the one that I'm there for, is the detective. He's fucking awesome. He has some great scenes with Chucky, the one where Chucky's holding on the gas pedal and screwing with him in the car. I love that. That's like one of the most memorable scenes to me from when I saw that movie for the first time. So the idea of Devon Sawa playing that character is dope to me. I was also thinking that maybe, just maybe, he could be playing a young Charles Lee Ray, but the reason I don't think that's the case is that Brad Dourif's voice is so iconic. And in the first Child's Play movie, we see Charles Lee Ray living and Brad Dourif is screaming and we hear his voice as that character. So it's not like the voice changed once he became a doll. And if they could do it by like dubbing Devon Sawa with Brad Dourif's voice, I guess that would work, but to me that seems like more work than they're probably going to put in. So that's why in my mind he's probably playing a Detective Mike Norris type character. You know what I mean? I brought up Andy a few times, and it's kind of weird that he's missing from this show, because Alex Vincent was brought back in the after credit scene in Curse, and then he was a main character in Cult, and as far as I'm aware, he made it out of that movie. So setting this show after Cult but not including him just doesn't seem totally right to me. Like maybe he'll have another cameo that's a surprise, or we'll see a casting announcement coming down the line, but still, it is odd that they made a huge deal out of reintroducing Andy into the franchise only to not have him in this show. But if they aren't going to bring back Andy, I'm kind of okay with it, because he did get a whole movie to himself in Cult of Chucky. Anyway guys, that's all I have for you today on the Child's Play TV show. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Are you excited for it? Because I want to hear from you. And also, if you haven't subscribed yet or set your notifications to all, I'd really appreciate it if you did. As always, my name is Jimmy Champane, and I'll see you in the next one. Shape on.